Welcome to the Natural History Cupboard. Come on in.
And welcome back to the Natural History Cupboard podcast, the place where the weird and wonderful parts of the natural world come together. I'm your host, Gareth, and with me, as always, is my co-host, Aaron. No Drew this week. He's decided to escape. I mean, you left the locks off. That's the problem. But what have you been up to this week?
To be honest, a lot of work in the garden, doing the patio, and looking for slow worms. But so far, I only found dead ones.
I mean, it's sort of a confirmation, I suppose.
Yeah, no, there's lots of dead ones. Just can't find the little.
Can't find the live ones.
But I'll get there. I'll get there. Been, as you'll probably hear more about later, I suppose. Been catching grasshoppers with my daughter. That's I tell you what I did do. You were involved in this.
Yeah.
I finally got Path of Titans, the dinosaur game.
Yeah. You finally did it.
Yeah. And that was great fun. We played as Quetzalcoatlus, didn't we?
Yeah.
It wasn't Hatzalot.
No. There was the option of Quetzalcoatlus and Hatzagopteryx. But we went with the reason I went with the Quetzalcoatlus is the one that I had on that particular server is in these really stunning gannet colours.
I was going to say your Quetz was very, very nice looking. I have to say I was a little bit iffy on replayability. Would it get boring quickly? And graphics, because the actual trailer for the game, I don't think it makes the graphics look good at all. I was shocked. It's very beautiful. The world, the maps are very beautiful. The animals are stunning. The customizations to make your dinosaur or whatever animal, whatever colors you want are just gorgeous. And it is very, very fun. I noticed that there was one griefer on our map when we were playing.
Yeah.
And he got a public rollicking, shall we say, from the other people in the group. And I noticed that he got a warning.
Oh yeah,
from the game.
They're pretty good on those sort of servers.
Yeah, it's not going to be like Ark or what. We used to have our meetings either on Red Dead Redemption or on Grand Theft Auto. Trying to have a meeting on Grand Theft Auto 5 is impossible because you'd have me, Drew, and Gareth doing a heist, trying to work out what's going to happen this week's episode of the podcast.
As you could tell, we really had professional ways of doing it.
Professional meetings, yeah.
Soon be damned, you know.
Get decked by griefers constantly.
Oh yeah.
So this is going to be a fun way to communicate going forward. I
probably
think.
Won't use it for planning meetings. It's not as good for that.
I think we should
spitball ideas.
Yeah.
But
yeah,
you know,
that's what.
It's a good game, and I've enjoyed playing it as a variety of different things. But the part of me when I first played it, it's a really sort of heart attack inducing when you're just sort of wandering through these forests as a baby dinosaur or something, and all of a sudden just something comes out of nowhere and kills you.
You are very vulnerable as a baby.
You feel very, very vulnerable doing it, especially if you're playing it on your own. And I found that my initial thought was like, well, I need to play as a pterosaur. That way I can stay in the air and nothing can get me up there. I feel much, much safer. And then you realize when you land on the ground, things come after you because they know you're weak on the ground.
Yeah.
And it's still heart rate inducing. And you're like, oh my God, I can't do this.
Also, as I found out my first time trying to land as a Quetzalcoatlus is George of the Jungle did not show how painful trees were to be when you crash into them.
You've got to learn how to fly like a real one.
Smashed.
But yeah, it's a good game.
It was. It's good
a
fun.
Good game.
Really good fun.
Yeah. Well, do you want to know what I've been doing? I've been collecting things this week.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, not your average collection. We've got, as of today, and it won't be getting any bigger. I'll be pointing that out. Will not be getting any more. 4 herring gull chicks.
Lovely.
This time of the year, the chicks are basically growing, and unfortunately, a lot of the time they'll nest on roofs of buildings, and the chicks fall off. Now, most of the time, the parents will stay around and keep an eye on them and feed them and continue to protect them. The biggest issue that they face is things like cats and dogs and people. Cats and dogs, the obvious reason, they'll eat the chicks. People are another big issue in that, well, I've actually heard some pretty horrible reports of people actually killing chicks
Doesn't surprise me. Doesn't
because they're a
surprise me.
herring gull. Which,
People hate gulls for some
Yeah.
reason. I think they are a vulnerable species in the
Yeah.
British Isles.
and they certainly deserve far more credit than they get.
They're super smart and they're very funny.
But a lot of them are picked up by well-meaning people and not knowing that, you know, the parents will still look after them and they'll take them to vets. Most vets don't have the facilities to look after them, and a lot of the wildlife charities also are rammed full this time of the year.
Yeah.
And so they do a huge amount of work in rearing these birds up to get them back out. So we got asked, because my wife is a vet nurse and obvious links to things like that, to look after a herring gull. Yeah, fair enough. We'll do that. We've got one of those collapsible dog crates. That's quite a good thing to put them in, to give them a bit of space, but also keep them controlled whilst whilst they're sort of being reared up. Like one of the decent sized ones. And that then became 2. That then became 3, and then today became 4. So we've now got this nice little process of a morning where we let the herring gulls out onto the lawn and they sort of run around, have a good. They're all practicing flight and they look hilarious with these sort of floppy wings that they're just practicing flight. Name wise, we've named them. Or the first one came to us with the name Odin, which I thought was brilliant. Although it should have been a raven, I suppose.
Well, I had a jackdaw named Odin.
Yeah. The next one we decided to call Frigga, after Odin's wife, or
Yep.
Yeah, is it actually his wife?
I believe it is his wife. Yeah.
And then the next one came with the name Bob, so we've kept Bob.
Makes sense.
And today's one, we've
Very
got
well themed.
Yeah, so we've kept it with the bee theme. We've gone with Balder.
Oh, nice. So it's bee themed.
Yeah,
but it's also Norse
themed.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Balder the Beautiful,
the classic Norse god as well, Bob.
Yes.
So yeah, we've done that, and weirdly, as we had them out on the lawn the other day, just sort of letting them adventure around, they're loving like pecking at things, having a good practice of flying. An adult herring gull flew past, and I swear to God, if this bird could have like put the handbrake on and just stopped mid-flight, it would have.
Yeah.
It was weird in that he's just like flying along. The heck? And just sort of looks down, does this full like sharp turn to sort of land on next door's house, and is just looking and just sort of making quite like small sounds at them to basically talk at them.
Oh, cool.
And so we've been watching, I've been seeing what's happening. I've read a paper the other day that says some herring gulls have actually adopted other chicks in the past, but we're obviously not going to just leave the chicks outside of the pen that we've got them, because there's potential for cats and everything to come and eat them. We'd love to be able to just put them there and just let this adult, take over. Although it might be a bit off-putting for it to go from having probably no chicks to 4 chicks.
Yeah.
We're going through quite a bit of fish and cat food and everything.
What's the average clutch size for a herring gull? Because I've only
about
seen
2.
them with 1 chick.
Yeah, 1 or 2.
Yeah.
So it would be an
Thought it was a lot.
exceptional clutch for that parent. But yeah, it's been hanging around. It knows they're there. They've talked to it. It's talked to them. And we're waiting for it to come down and sort of try and interact and see what happens. But it's not quite got the boldness yet to come down into the garden. It sort of semi-crash landed onto our bird feeding table a bit to sort of get a better view, and slid off the greenhouse. But yeah, that could be quite interesting as to what happens. Hopefully it'd be a case of when they're all big enough, fed up and feathered, we'll open the door one day and they'll just go off and become gulls themselves,
Very good.
So yeah, it'd be interesting to see what happens. Yeah, watch this space.
Yeah.
Watch this space. Right, well, should we move into our news segment for today?
Let's do it.
It's the news!
Right, well, we're into this week's news. Aaron, take us out.
Every week, the weird and wonderful world of natural history offers up an embarrassment of riches when it comes to news and interesting stories. And though we here at the Natural History Cupboard are but a small team, and once again we are smaller again because Drew escaped.
He's in the background again somewhere.
Yeah, he's drawing things for us, isn't he? It is our aim to keep you guys, our fellow cupboard dwellers, up to date on the good, the odd, and the exciting, and in some cases, hopefully funny. So let's open up the Natural History Cupboard newsreel, where we've compiled some of the more interesting headlines, and dive on in. And I've got the first article today, and that comes to us from Live Science. It's an interesting one. Stunning 3D images show anatomy of 500 million year old Cambrian trilobites entombed in volcanic ash. So this is the story that scientists have been able to render a 3D computer generated model of Cambrian era trilobites.
Nice.
The photos are amazing, and they come from specimens buried in a bed of volcanic ash that dates back some 541 million years to 485 million years ago.
Cool.
And the pictures are beautiful.
Oh, well, yeah, definitely check those out.
Yeah.
From birdguides.com,
Oh,
I've
yes.
got something that's got nothing to do with birds.
Oh, right.
To be honest, they do an awful lot of other stuff as well. And this is newt species is new for Ireland. A newt species never previously seen before in Ireland has recently been discovered in County Cork. No further than 9 palmate newts were found by Rob Gondola, an expert in amphibians and reptiles, and a member of the Herpetological Society of Ireland, and basically an undisclosed location of the southwest Irish county. So yeah, this is well, an animal that is relatively common here, not so common in Ireland.
Yeah, yeah. So the next one comes to us from Metro, which is like an online newspaper, I believe. And the headline is great. It's world's most prolific fossilized poo collector is now showing it off in a museum. George Franson is the proud holder of the Guinness Book of Records for owning, to quote Dr. Ian Malcolm, one big pile of turd, family friendliness and all. He owns a lot of turd, in fact, and now he wants to share his turd with you, the people.
And good, that's sensible.
George's poo collection is no ordinary collection, however. Not that having poo collections is ordinary.
That's very ordinary.
As it is actually the largest collection of coprolites or fossilized poo in the world, numbering some 8,000 pieces.
Nice.
These are now on display at his freshly unveiled,
Well, they're getting the puns in
freshly laid museum in Arizona, named, wait for it, the Pooseum.
There's many puns that I'm sure we could go into there.
Yes.
I like a coprolite. They're one of my favourite fossils to find.
It's not ever a fossil that, I suppose I wouldn't mind having one coprolite in my possession, but it's not one that I would like lots of. However, they're the most interesting fossil from my
They're
point of
really
view,
cool.
because I like life biology and stuff like that.
Trace fossils, yeah.
Yeah, you can work out so much more about an animal's poo or a dinosaur's coprolite than from poo and coprolite than you can from the bones of the dinosaur itself.
Yeah.
Yeah, it really gives you a window into
I
the world.
always like having a coprolite that I can pass around, and whenever I've done like education stuff on dinosaurs, doesn't matter whether they're little kids, adults, you name it, everyone in between, you hand them around a rock and you go, here you go, everyone have a good look at that. Everyone have a good look at that. And you go, so what do you reckon you've held? Shell. No, you've held a 180 million year old piece of poo. And everyone instantly has the same reaction. Oh, I need to wash my hands. No, it's a rock. It's not a poo. It's long since stopped being a poo. It's a rock at this point. It's the same reaction, regardless of whether it's little kids or adults, but they love it.
Yeah.
They love the fact that they've handled it. Anyway, my next story comes from North Wales Live, and this is disbelief as video suggests Eryri's lost golden eagles are back after 170 years. So Eryri, for those who are unaware, is Snowdonia, which is a large mountain. It's the second highest mountain in the UK.
It is,
yes,
yeah.
just below Ben Nevis.
Is the second largest.
You climbed up that one?
I've done Snowdon, and I've done what's the name of the one
In England, Scafell
England?
Pike.
Scafell Pike, yeah.
Yeah. I've only done Ironi. So yes, basically, golden eagles have been missing from Wales for the last 170 years, and most of England as well. So their sort of only real stronghold now is Scotland. Um, a relatively common bird throughout the rest of the world in its range.
Mm.
But as with most things in Britain, we've wiped it out. But a photographer brewing a cup of tea by Avon Glaslyn spotted a large bird flying high above what's called Gellert's grave
Oh,
in the. Do you know where that is?
I'm very familiar with Gillette's grave and the myth behind it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a lovely
Well,
place.
I mean, you've seen the video. I showed it to you. He's seen a large bird, but people are torn between whether it's a golden eagle or whether it's a buzzard. I want to believe it's an eagle.
Yeah, I want to too. I've seen the
But
video.
annoyingly, the video doesn't show any scale for how big this bird is, whether it would be another bird in the background or something in the foreground, basically something to give you an idea of scale. It's very much just footage taken up in the sky, so it doesn't allow you that scale. And there are some bits and pieces that fit the description of a golden eagle, but they also fit the description of a buzzard in other parts.
It's very difficult to tell.
And since this story came out, because this one's actually been out for a little bit of time now, I've not seen anything more about it. So I think maybe it's a buzzard or it's someone's falconry bird that has gone missing. But yeah, sad to say. But here's hoping that one day that they are back.
The eagles are coming.
Yes, the eagles.
And my last headline for this week comes to us from fizz.org, and that is 60-million-year-old grape seeds reveal how the death of the dinosaurs may have paved the way for grapes to spread. So are you partial to a grape?
I like a grape. Yep. Yeah.
I like grapes. Well, if you at home are also snacking on the popular fruity treat, you may well have to thank an asteroid for your juicy morsels. Fossilized seeds from Colombia, Panama, and Peru represent the oldest species in the grape family at roughly 19 to 60 million years old. And they help give us an insight into how the grape family spread in the absence of dinosaurs. So next time you smell a vintage wine past you in a restaurant, remember, it's the smell of the bouquet of doom.
I mean, T-Rex would have made a rubbish viticulturalist. It can't reach the vines, It can't appreciate a good red. It's just...
It can't reach my mouth.
My final article is more just a thing to add to my wish list for viewing and hoping it will turn up here in the UK. For those of you lucky enough in Australia to have TV. On ABC, there is a new series that started coincidentally like last week or so, just as our Procoptodon episode was being released, which is focusing on Australian megafauna. It came out on the 25th of July, and it's being narrated by Hugh Jackman. So, it's got a bit of clout behind it if he's quite happy to jump on there as well. Called Megafauna. It's a series looking at, Pleistocene fauna from Australia. So things like Diprotodon, Procoptodon, and things like thylacine as well. There was also mention of Deinocheirus as well, the demon duck. So that's in there as well.
That's cool.
So yeah, really cool, and I hope it turns up in the UK. It'll be really fun to see, or at least on YouTube or something for us to be able to track it down.
Here's hoping. And that just about wraps up for this week's establishment, no, this week's instalment of the Natural History Cupboard newsreel. Remember, if you guys at home have news articles or topics of interest that you think we should cover, send them in. You can use any of the usual ways to contact us, whether by email or social media. Or,
ask Hugh Jackman to send us something.
Yeah, send the Eagles.
Yeah.
And you might just see your chosen article or topic covered here, or in our natural history news discussion. And with that said, it's me with the main topic this week. And I'm doing it a little bit differently because I'm going to have it in front of me on this. Now, it's related to, a fair few things we've done on this podcast.
All links. It's all coming together.
So the headline is plans to bring extinct thylacine back to life involves partnership with Tassie Wildlife Sanctuary. Now, if you know anything about this cupboard, you'll know that thylacines are a bit of a fond
Oh
animal
yeah,
that that's looked upon quite fondly here.
quite like them.
They're Gareth's favorite. How would you say it? Favorite animal or favorite extinct animal?
Oh no, this isn't my favorite extinct animal.
No. Okay.
No.
Okay.
And I don't even know whether they actually are my favorite extinct marsupial.
Very. Oh.
See, I think the thylacine and the
Thylacine is
thylacine, they're
a
in,
cool animal.
and then yeah, see, they're definitely one of my favorites. I think it's an example of how we have dropped the ball so much on so many cases of animals that we've led ourselves down this route. So I think it's an animal that speaks to us. It certainly speaks to me in a way of you came so close to seeing that.
Yeah.
This isn't like the dodo that was that basically went extinct hundreds of years ago. This is an animal that was officially declared extinct only in the 80s. So yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree. It's one of those things that are we just missed out on by what, maybe 2 generations. It was in zoos like, at the start of the 1900s. Yeah. So yeah, it's very sad. But like I say, it's an animal that I'm very fond of. It's an animal that Gareth is particularly fond of. He's done a creature feature on it that is brilliant. And also, we were lucky enough to interview Professor Andrew Pask, who, again, if you hear this, I am terribly sorry for how late my email was to you. But yeah, it is a source of professional embarrassment for me that it took me that long to reply. But yeah, we got a fantastic email with the good professor about bringing these guys back to life, back from the brink of extinction, because he is heading up very much the effort with his Tiger company, which is teamed up with or under the umbrella of Colossal, which is a genetics company. So this article is about a chance meeting between these companies. This company and the wildlife sanctuary in Tasmania hopes to bring back thylacines, and they're making a donation to the sum of $75,000.
That's not bad at all.
So it says here in brackets $112,567. I'm guessing that's Australian dollars.
Yeah.
So Bonorong Wildlife Sanctuary Director Greg Irons first heard of thylacine de-extinction through a guest to the facility who encouraged him to get in touch with biotechnology company Colossal Biosciences co-founder Ben Lamb, who's another person I'd really like to get in the cupboard here. The conversation led to a two-way partnership, and it includes the transfer of samples of deceased native species, and Mr. Irons' involvement in a de-extinction committee, which will be called the Thylacine Advisory Committee, and the group comprises of Tasmanian mayors and people in business and tourism, as well as obviously people who are involved with Tasmanian wildlife and the company itself, hoping to bring these guys back. There's no firm date, as we know.
I mean, obviously,
yeah, we know that from I believe Professor Pask said it's 10 years away, isn't it? Roughly speaking,
it's going to be a good amount of time away, I think. Yeah,
but and it's seconded here by the Colossal Biosciences company saying that the species will return within the decade. I think within the decade might be a bit soon, but then I don't understand the science of it, and I don't really, and no one will really, apart from them working on it, will really know how far ahead they are. I'm sure they make leaps and bounds every day that they can't tell us about until it's all been greenlit to come to them.
Yeah.
So yeah, the partnership is hoped to help fund new wildlife hospital. After months of madly fundraising, Bonorong Wildlife Sanctuary recently reached its $1 million target to build a new wildlife hospital helped by a large donation from Colossal Biosciences.
Oh, that's good.
So that donation of $75,000 will be matched dollar for dollar by Elsie Cameron Foundation, closing a $200,000+ gap in funds. Mr. Irons said the offer came after a brief email exchange where he mentioned the need for funding. He said that they just didn't blink. Straight away, they said, absolutely, we want to be a part of it. So how
That's
great
fantastic.
is that? And may I also add that this is proof of what I was saying in that interview with Professor Pask. I was kind of, not totally, I wasn't close to it, but I was kind of against bringing back extinct animals.
Yeah.
Until that interview, because getting ready for that interview, hearing what Gareth had to say about the thylacine and about this effort, hearing what Professor Andrew Pask had to say about it, and doing a bit of research for that interview, led me to see all the huge world of opportunities that opens up by doing this research. And we saw it recently as well with the pink pigeon.
Oh yeah.
How Colossal Biosciences efforts to work towards cloning the dodo are actually actively keeping the pink pigeon from going extinct because this research helps them. And this is what's happening here. Money from this company that's funded by these projects is going into making animal hospitals. It's just great, really. It's absolutely fantastic.
It also shows that, I mean, it's something that I said in that interview. You know, are they working with any sort of wildlife parks or zoos that would be essentially the first storehouses of these animals before they're let loose into the wild to breed them up? And they're making the groundwork for things like that now. You know, they're basically putting in the plans so that this sort of thing can happen. I mean, the biggest hope I would for these sort of things is that it changes government policy on how Tasmania's wilderness is managed, and you know, areas of, like we've talked about with the Huon pine, how areas of forest are basically protected, heavily protected, and left to be sanctuaries for these animals to be reintroduced in. The tourism of people going to those areas in managed ways to see those animals, whether it from a distance or whether it be captive individuals, and whether it just be a case of Tasmania is the only place you can go and see these animals in zoos, even, which I think actually would be, from a tourism point of view, you are going to have everybody going there who wants to see that. You know, it's going to be you want to see a thylacine, you've got to go to Tasmania. That will rake in the money for Tasmanian, tourism. And it should, in theory, and unfortunately, it's probably the only way, money will then change the way that government views protecting its own heritage. Because at the moment, they're not doing as much as they could do to protect Tasmania's wilderness. You know, so hopefully this is the start of a big stone that rolls and rolls and rolls and ends up with Tasmanian tigers back in the wild, areas more protected, and you know, funding going to the right places.
Well, they're talking about not just hospitals here, but they're talking about developing artificial pouches.
Nice.
For orphaned marsupials. Like that is technology that would have
that will benefit everything. Marsupial wise, at least, anyway.
And also a genetic modification that could make northern quolls on mainland Australia immune to cane toad toxin.
Perfect.
That's something we've spoken about a lot, actually. Bonaron provides eastern barred bandicoot skin and ear samples from its hospital facility to the biotechnology company. It's one of 16 different projects Mr. Irons supports, and he said the partnership was contingent on confidence in the company's ethics. That is our number one criteria to work with anyone, Mr. Irons said. Our partnership with them isn't about the dollars, it's more about what they want to achieve. And like I said, I was just stunned when researching for that interview. The depth and breadth of how this research can be applied to living species to save them. I actually think I'd probably leave this article there because I think it's worth reading. I don't want to read the whole thing out. word for word because, for one thing, that's not the point, but also
Yeah.
because I really want people to come and read this. So this can be found on www.abc.net. Sorry, abc.net.au. Yeah, and it's a fantastic article. It's a really good read.
Yeah, no, it's really good. Right, should we go into our creature feature for this week?
Yeah, let's do it.
It's the creature feature.
Right, well, we're into this week's creature feature. And this week, Aaron, we're going to add to our list of ever-growing Asiatic dinosaurs, and specifically the ones from Mongolia, which is a fascinating list in itself.
Yeah, really
So,
is. Should have been wearing my Linhoraptor shirt.
That's a good point, actually, yeah. Although I don't think Linhoraptor comes from this specific part
No, it doesn't.
of the Gobi, but still a really cool one. Also, Velociraptor, I don't believe is in this
No, it's not.
series as well. However, still very cool Asiatic dinosaurs. This week, we're going to add to that ever-growing list, and we're going to look at an animal that was found on the 9th of July in 1965. A pair of giant arms, and when I say giant arms, I do mean it. These were absolute whoppers. Some shoulder girdles, which are the shoulder bones, basically, were first discovered in the Namaget Formation of Mongolia by a Polish paleontologist. Now I'm definitely going to butcher this one. Zofia Kilan Jaworowska. So I hope I got that right. From the end of the forearm alone, it measured an incredible 2.4 meters in length. And these were tipped in big comma-shaped claws. They were basically the claws of either the world's biggest killer theropod, or these were something totally different. And they were off a completely new, unfounded dinosaur, but a real mystery dinosaur as well. And it wasn't until 1970 that these particular bones got given the type specimen, so the one that the entire genus is named after. But before this, it was given the name Deinocheirus, which means horrible or terrible hand or claw.
Yeah, you wouldn't have wanted to be slapped by it.
No. In fact, I've got some dinosaur claws with me, replicas, of course, because what do I? Made of money. In fact, some of them are from the same sort of part of the world. So what have we got up here? There's a Utah raptor claw for you.
Not from the same
not
part
from
of the
the
world.
same part of the world.
Clues
no,
in the name.
Yep, from Utah in North America.
Yes.
Where's my small one gone?
Maybe across the belly, spilling your intestines. The point is, you're alive when it starts to eat you.
I've lost the tiny one now.
It's let me just lean across there.
Yeah,
There you go.
Velociraptor claw, which will surprise most people.
A
if
lot
you're a
of
fan
people
Jurassic
won't
Park.
realise that is how small Velociraptor is, because that's kind of the size that Alan Grant has, isn't it?
Yeah.
Somewhat. So
Utah and Velociraptor. Velociraptor actually from that part of the world.
yeah.
This one though, do you know what this one is?
Are you going to say Deinocheirus? Because
I wish it was.
Because I don't. I'm going to go with. No, I'm just going to let you go. I don't know.
As a baryonyx claw. So this is actually a hand claw off a dinosaur that we've talked about in the past, baryonyx. I would say this is almost comma shaped. So Deinocheirus claws are around the same sort of size as these, maybe a tiny bit bigger. But imagine 3 of these on a huge set of arms that swung down below some sort of mystery giant theropod. And you're getting an idea of what people were looking at. And for the longest time as well, any dinosaur book that you'd have picked up would have just had a page that would just be dedicated to Deinocheirus, which would just be a picture of those hands and those arms in a museum, just sort of hanging down like that.
Yeah.
So like I say, in 1978, got the type specimen name, and that would be about it. In fact, we could end the creature feature there. If we were anywhere before 2011, we could just call it quits, and that's all we know about Deinocheirus. But we are since long past 2011, just to give you a scary thought on the continuation of time there. It wasn't until 2011 when Pascal Godfried, a paleontologist at the Royal Belgian Institute of Natural Sciences, had been called to France by a fossil dealer that he was acquainted with, who had been approached by a German fossil collector who had come into possession of some Mongolian dinosaur fossils that had changed multiple hands multiple times. Ironic for an animal that we're talking about with big scary hands. From Mongolia to Central Asia, Japan, and then eventually it made its way into Europe and then to specifically that German fossil dealer. These fossils were basically made up of a skull, a foot, and a few bits of other bones and bits and pieces. But most importantly, a skull that would change how we view this dinosaur entirely. But we're not finished yet.
Okay.
There is more change to come. In fact, this is one of those mighty morphing dinosaurs, as I call them. The reason why I've been so resistant to do Spinosaurus. In fact, just the other week, we were talking about Spinosaurus. And what happens? Brand new paper comes out.
Yeah.
It's the curse of Spinosaurus. You can't mention its name without a new paper coming out. Happens. Guaranteed. You watch.
But that's how they discover more things.
Oh, I
Paleontologists in
know.
the field, when they like haven't found a new bone for a while, Spinosaurus is definitely this way. Another one appears in front of them, and they're like, "Yes!"
I wish it were that easy. So the fossils, like I say, that he ended up seeing were a skull, some feet, and some other bits and pieces. Most importantly, some giant hands as well were also included with these fossils. Quite importantly, filling in the gap, a bit more of this mystery dinosaur that was found in the 1960s. So let's look at another mighty morphing dinosaur, as I call it, because it doesn't stay in one shape. In fact, over time, this dinosaur has changed massively in people's perceptions and people's viewpoints of it. And the classification of Deinocheirus as well was uncertain and a bit wobbly for a while. But that seemed to sort of firm up a lot more before anything else.
Yeah.
Certainly the view of what this animal looks like. Initially, it was placed in Carnosauria. So it's a theropod. We know that much about it. Those claws on those hands are pretty distinctive. It's not going to be a ceratopsian. It's not going to be a sauropod or anything like that. It is going to be a member of the theropods, which means beast foot. Any carnivorous dinosaur or birds, for instance, all fall into that group, but thrown in the corner because we don't know what to do with it. But similarities with a group of dinosaurs that look somewhat similar were drawn up, and that seems to be where it has stayed. So can you take a guess at what its closest relatives would be? And now think in terms of the 1970s. So, you can't bring in any dinosaurs like Therizinosaurus, which would be the obvious thought that most people would go with.
That's where I was going to go with Therizinosaurus, which for people who aren't as glued into it, but another animal with huge.
I should have brought my Therizinosaurus claws.
You should have done. Yeah.
Well, I'll do Therizinosaurus as a creature feature one day. There we go.
It must be on your list somewhere.
I think it probably is.
What would it be closest related to?
Think of how it looks. And think not of the modern day interpretation of this animal, which will probably be appearing as a picture on the screen somewhere. But think of its sort of 1960s, 1970s look. Long neck-ish, long legs, long tail, and definitely long arms.
Are you going sauropods?
No. It falls in with
Gallimimus things.
The ornithomimids, the bird mimics. So Gallimimus is one specific species, actually from this formation as well.
Yeah.
Where these guys lived. But things like Struthiomimus, any of the bird mimics. So it was soon noted that it basically shared some similarities, but just imagine it dialed up to 12. The more complete remains, obviously, of them being found showed that this definitely fitted. It's definitely what was considered a primitive ornithomimosaurian, most closely related to similar groups known as Garudamimus, which I think is brilliant because it's named after the Indonesian mythical bird god.
Yep.
And then Bashaya Long, another ornithomimid. And they basically were all grouped, those little individuals were grouped together into Deinocheiridae. And basically, the members of this group are not adapted for speed. They've given up speed and they've spec'd into bulk. They've gone big.
Okay.
They've. I mean, the other two aren't massive, but they've gone away from the speed aspect of what makes an ornithomimosaur basically survive and gone for a bit more bulk. And especially Deinocheirus has gone for bulk as well.
Gone in for like having some weight to back them up as opposed to
Run
having
away.
the speed to run away. Yeah.
So yeah, they've opted for bulk over speed and have got bigger and bulkier. So like I said before, I can remember looking in a lot of the early books that I had as a kid about dinosaurs, and there was always just that 1 or 2 pages about Deinocheirus being this mystery animal. But I had a good look through the internet the other night, looking for some of these original images that have appeared on in some of these books and some of these early drawings, especially when we get to the sort of 2011 era, so that we know it's definitely an ornithomimid. You get these drawings that I'm showing to you at the moment, Aaron, that will be coming up behind us here,
I'm looking at
where
them now.
you've got sort of, it's always got its claws up. It's always like looking. It's that classic,
like it's about to pounce.
Yeah, it's always that classic dinosaur pose of it's gonna get you. So yeah, you got things like that, and then there's the one where it's sort of holding its long, spindly arms down below it. But some of the very first interpretations of it being like a carnosaur would be this odd looking. It's weird. It's a very odd image.
Is that this one here?
That's that one, yeah.
So that'll be the one that I suppose is behind us or above us now.
Yeah.
It reminds me actually of 2 things but put together. Do you remember like when we were kids, the way that they used to represent Iguanodon as like almost kangaroo posture, arms dangling up, unless it's pictured near a tree, in which case it's doing this all the time, like thumbs up. But then mix that with, I don't know how many people of our listeners, I don't even know if you know this, you must be aware of this. Originally, Jurassic Park 3 was going to take a different route when the military were going to crossbreed the dinosaurs with humans and make dinosaur soldiers.
And that weird drawing.
Some of the paleo art, or the concept art was awful, but that's what that reminds me of.
It does
that's
look
what
a bit like
reminds
that.
me of.
Yeah. So
I have to dig one of those out for you to
I'll find it to put it up there. In 2014, new fossils, like I say, were found. This added a little bit more to the puzzle. This is what I do like about paleontology, it's an ongoing jigsaw puzzle.
It is a jigsaw, yeah.
But it gets infuriating when you get to Spinosaur levels of puzzle, where it's like, no, it's actually this piece from here is over here now.
Yeah.
So that does get a bit infuriating, but this one seems to fit nicely. So I'll try that again. 2 new specimens were found in 2014. They were headless, probably for a couple of reasons. Heads are one of those things that tend to break off bodies quite easily, but also there is a lot of black market fossil dealing, which we will get onto. And this finally gave us the humped back look of this dinosaur. So not only is it a giant hook-clawed, weird duck-billed face, this animal has a humped back as well.
Right, so we were talking about a real like oddball.
Oh yeah, but this is what makes me love it, because at the same time as well, this is where they found the tail aspect of it as well. Now, do you know what a pygostyle is, Aaron?
Yeah, so that is something that Therizinosaurus had. A lot of dinosaurs, Ambopteryx longibrachium has it. Birds have it. It's the orientation and the formation of the bones in the tail that allow for it to be short and stubby, but have the feathers anchored in to fan out.
Yeah, spot on. I mean,
way.
Someone who says he's not very good at bird anatomy, that's pretty damn good.
Cheers.
Yeah, no, a pygostyle is basically fused vertebra, very similar to like a coccyx in a human, except they've got more control over it. And at the very end of Deinocheirus's tail, it had a pygostyle. So a few end of the vertebra were fused together to basically make a sort of stiffened patch of its tail. And the thought is as well that it would have had like a tail fan at the very end, so
Yeah.
a way of showing off. And that would have been quite useful. So this is where the hump may have been similar. It's somewhat similar to the hump in like bison, where you've got those big neural spines going up, and there's a lot of attachment
Yes.
points there.
Yeah,
So it,
for big muscles.
yeah,
Yeah.
but it may also have been for fat storage. It
Yeah.
may have also been for display as well. So that's still out, out there for people to figure out what it was doing.
You can just see them, especially with those claws, kind of like doing some sort of birds of paradise, like bow, and feathers come up like the peacock. that
Well,
kind of thing.
there's a series of
The claws
like
kind
a
of
like a
making
dinosaur
acoustic
documentary
noise.
series where they've used the roseate spoonbill as the inspiration for
Oh,
Deinocheirus.
okay.
And it's basically doing that. It's got its hands out. It's got like this weird little crest coming up, like a roseate spoonbill, opening its mouth and scaring. I think it's a Tarbosaurus off.
Right. Yeah.
So yeah. What was this animal doing? What was it? What was its life like?
It was pretty good.
Well, to be honest, where it lived doesn't sound like a bad place.
Hmm.
So when we think of the Gobi Desert today, we don't think of it as being a particularly hospitable place. It's pretty dry. It's pretty sandy. It's pretty
Yeah.
cold of a night, and it's pretty baking hot during the day. I'd love to go there
Yeah.
to
Same.
actually fossil hunt,
Yeah.
but at the same time, I also wouldn't want to go there because it's a horribly desolate desert. So, it's a double-edged sword. I think the fossil hunting would outweigh the
Oh
the
yeah.
desolation of the place.
Can you imagine finding more like, well, me personally, finding more dromaeosaur,
Yeah.
Linoraptor, Velociraptor, all the others that are there.
Well, the
Those are
actual
my favorites.
the formation, the Nemet formation, has never actually been geologically radiometrically dated exactly, but there is enough fauna present to basically act as those placeholders, basically, that tell you exactly
markers
where
in
things
time.
are. Yeah,
Right.
so they've never really needed to. But we're looking at the Maastrichtian, which is at the end of the late Cretaceous, about 70 million years ago. So about 4 or 5 million years before things go really, really bad.
Yeah.
So the rock formation suggests the presence of streams, river channels, mud flats, shallow lakes, large rivers. Basically, think large wetland with lots of plants, but going through periodic drought periods of like really harsh drought where everything dies off, and the water disappears and then comes back again with the rains, that sort of thing.
Okay.
The best way, or the thing that instantly came to mind for me was the Pantanals in Brazil,
Yeah.
which unfortunately at the moment are facing gigantic wildfires.
Of course they are.
Yeah, climate
Yeah.
change is it basically areas of what would be underwater at the moment
Yeah.
is bone dry, which is scary in those ways. Or the Nile Delta, or the Okavango Delta. In fact, the Okavango is probably not a bad shout at all because it's that sort of bountiful wetland area,
lush green.
yeah, and then goes instantly dry.
Mm.
So yeah, think of the Okavango in present day Botswana. And within this ecosystem, Deinocheirus would have basically been eating plants, lots of plants, as well as small animals and fish, if it have eaten them. I mean, ornithomimids are omnivores,
Yeah.
potentially. They'll eat a bit of everything. And you've worked with modern day ostriches and rheas and things. They'll
Ostriches,
quite
rheas,
happily eat
and emus.
insects and small animals given a chance. I mean, chickens will certainly do that as well. So, it's of no surprise that we'd probably find things like that they would be eating, especially with those claws as well. And it's thought that the claws themselves were used for sort of digging and raking through plants and ripping out roots and stuff like that so that they can eat them in their toothless beak. But it was flattened at the end, a bit like a duck.
Yeah.
So we've got a duck, giraffe, camel thing.
Oh yeah, yeah.
With a fan tail.
Sounding fantastically chimeric.
it's brilliant, and I love it because it would have been if you've seen, and I know you've seen it now, is Prehistoric Planet.
Yeah.
That episode where you've got, and I think it summed it up really nice. There was a YouTube video that I was watching. I can't remember the name of the channel. It was talking about like the evolution of Deinocheirus in media.
Mm.
And he was talking about how it's nice to see it not just terrorizing things, and the idea that you could have quite easily put in like a dinosaur fighting another dinosaur because it has big claws.
Yeah.
But it went for Deinocheirus scratching its butt on a tree, which in my mind is how animals act. They're always trying to attack each other.
That series did a really good job of taking the monster element out of dinosaur documentaries.
Yeah.
And like portraying them as real animals, like real living, breathing animals, and how they would behave.
Basically, yeah. So in this same area, you'd have had a vast complement of different wildlife as well. Sounds like it would have been a pretty nice place to go and spot dinosaurs. You've got other large herbivorous dinosaurs, including Tarchia, which is the ankylosaur. You've got Prenocephalae, the pachycephalosaurid. You've got Saurolophus and Bard's Boldia, which are two big hadrosaurs, which would have also been in the area. What else we got? Sorry, I was just looking at this incredibly long list.
That is a really long list.
Nemetosaurus, and Opsithocholidocordia, which are sauropods. I don't think they're massive ones, but I'm not too sure on either of those actually. And hunting them, you've obviously got predators as well. You've got the Tarbosaurus,
It's a tyrannosaur.
basically T-Rex, yeah. So the
T-Rex
Asian
of Asia,
T-Rex.
yeah.
Alioramus, another tyrannosaurid, which was a bit smaller. And Bagaratan, as well. You've got Borogovia, Tochosauria, and Zanbazar, which are troodontid dinosaurs as well.
Yeah.
We've also got Therizinosaurus living in the same
course.
place. So you've got two dinosaurs with whacking great big claws and weird looks to them. So this is a place to be to see some weird stuff. You've got Oviraptorosaurs. You've also got other ornithomimosaurs as well, which is Anaceromimus and Gallimimus, which is, well, that's duck mimic and chicken mimic.
Yeah, Gallimimus is an incredibly popular and well-known one as well, isn't it?
Yeah, thanks to Jurassic Park.
I was going to say that's the one in Jurassic Park where they say they're flocking this way.
Yeah. And they, just like Deinocheirus, would have been covered in feathers as well. Now, the thought, you'll see Deinocheirus being portrayed in a variety of different ways, with everything from shaggy feathers, like the ones in Prehistoric Planet, right the way through to quite small, fuzzy feathers, with feathered arms. There are some people that don't like the feathered look on Deinocheirus and sort of quibble how much feathering. Personally, I like the Prehistoric Planet look. That's just my own personal preference, I think. So the blunt, short claws of Deinocheirus were similar to those, like Therizinosaurs, in some ways, like Alexosaura, which indicate the long arms and claws were used for digging, as I already said. But it also had blunt toes on its feet.
Oh yeah,
which would have been more hoof-like in its sort of appearance. And these would have also given it a bit more of a traction in wet, muddy ground, to help it grip. And its slow, basically its robust hind limbs and hip region indicate that the animal moved slowly, but not, dragging along the ground.
not
but
lumbering.
It knew what it was doing. It didn't, like I say, it specced away from speed. It gone for chunk. It's basically gone with what works for it. And I respect that. I'd quite happily walk slowly, and chomp on some plants. I think I can get down with Deinocheirus' way of doing things. Its large size as well would have protected it against predators such as Tarbosaurus. Well, it had to, because it's, like I say, it's got rid of the running aspect, to allow it to flee. But if you grab that claw again, if you have three of those, or three very similar sized claws like that on your hand, and you take a swipe at things, you are going to cause some damage. and not very many animals are going to mess with you, basically.
No, no. That
Also,
is an
I think it
impressive
helps as
tool.
well, being around water. These animals would have probably had an ability to sort of back away from things
Yeah,
and keep themselves a bit safer. But yeah,
incredible.
yeah. Well, that one would have been so much better if the 3D printer had printed it completely, and I didn't have to fill in the gaps at the back. That's what
Just
happens when.
A reference of.
All right,
wasting
show
about-
off my handiwork, why don't you?
Well, I think you did a good job.
Well,
I
that's
like
all
it.
right. So, yes, that's pretty much Deinocheirus in a nutshell. There's quite a bit of information about him, but at the same time, there's also not a lot for an animal that we now know an awful lot more about. And that's for a very big reason. There is a serious problem in the Gobi Desert, as there is with many parts of the world when it comes to fossil poaching. You
Yeah.
wouldn't think that that would be a serious issue, but it is. It's a multi-million-dollar industry, the illegal sale of anything, really. But fossils are definitely one of them. If you can get a fossil out of the ground and sell it off to a fossil dealer, you can probably make a decent bit of cash. And for your average person who's living in that area, if they know the land, they're probably going to do it because, well, it's probably a month's wage just by selling off, one skull or things like that. Unfortunately, what this leads to is people damaging fossils in the process, and those two the two skeletons that I was mentioning earlier that were headless, they were basically part of that. They'd lost their heads. One of them has disappeared off into
The ether,
the
never
ether,
to be found again.
but in the process, they damaged some of the other bones.
Right, yeah.
And a lot of the time, people will also smash up remaining bones because they've taken the hands or the head or something like that, the valuable bits that are easy to identify and easy to sell. No one's going to want to buy a random vertebra or something like that. But that vertebra is massively important to any scientist wanting to understand what the picture of this animal is. So yeah, it's a really big issue, and that's how we ended up with the initial bits making their way through that German dealer all the way to Gottfried, who then thankfully knew what he was looking at and was able to backtrack where those things have come from. A lot of these bits of Deinocheirus have now been repatriated to Mongolia as well,
Right, cool.
which is really good. And it means yet again that we should be looking at putting things back where they were. We've got good enough replicas, and that one, the baryonyx one there.
So that's this
I
one
mean,
again.
that's literally a 3D print that I got off the internet for free. So,
and I believe that was from the app that we've spoken about a year or so ago.
So it's not impossible to come across these sort of things. So you don't need to go out and pay thousands of pounds, because if I drop that and it breaks, okay, yeah, it's a bit irritating. But at the end of the day, it's a piece of plastic. It's identical in lots of ways. It's not my best, Joel. But if you drop the original specimen, that's gone forever. And the damage that can come from things like that is horrendous. And if you remember, Aaron, when we were at the Fossil Festival in Lyme Regis, I think pretty much everyone who was there, guest speaker talk wise, was saying, singing the advantage of replicas. It allows that that availability, that accessibility of something that is in itself super rare and super hard to deal with. So yeah, it's a much bigger problem. We could probably go on for a long while about the illegal fossil trade, but yeah, we'll end it there, shall we, and head on into our emails for this week.
Yeah, we can.
You can play with the claws a bit more if you
Yeah. It's just the size is impressive, isn't it? And like you say, especially when you look at like Velociraptor, which most people are going to think is this one, but actually it's this one, and you just think,
oh yeah,
that's a big. I know this is hand and this is toe, but that's a big animal.
Yeah.
Like I say, you wouldn't want to be slapped by
it. True.
Bing! You've got mail. Ooh, it's an email.
Right. Well, we're into our emails for this week, and we'll start things off with, as we always do, with our question from last week, which was based on Drew's creature feature, which is about his favorite butterfly or moth.
Yep.
Is what is your favorite species of butterfly or moth? And I believe you went straight in there and thought you'd preempt things by putting a comment on there.
Yeah, because I couldn't find the Atlas moth that I mentioned that episode, which I thought was a shame because I do have a really nice photo of it somewhere, but I could find a different species. So and again, it was inside somewhere. But my comment basically was to say hello everybody or hello all. Unfortunately, I couldn't find my photo of the species I name in the upcoming episode, which was the Atlas moth.
Yeah.
But I did find another Asian species that I met. And here is a very beautiful tropical swallowtail moth from Thailand. And check the picture out. What we'll put it up
right
here.
behind us. Yeah.
It's such a stunning species. And the wingspan is roughly 16 centimeters. So for our American friends, that's 6.3 inches. And this was just in the kitchen one day. You'll have to tune in to find out which species. Hopefully, you've already tuned in and realised it was an Atlas moth. I still can't find a photo, so it's not going to be featured here. But but this Asian swallowtail, tropical swallowtail moth will be. It's just another moth species that shows that the butterflies don't have all the beauty.
Nah,
in
moths
that
are better.
family.
I'm all for the moths. So Louise O'Leary has put the Fender blue butterfly, very rare in Oregon.
Stunner, yeah.
It's quite nice. It looks very similar to some of our types of blue butterfly. We've got the common blue and the chalk hill blue and a few different ones. This is where my butterfly knowledge falls down massively. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a really nice photo of it as well. Oh, it's not your photo though. I was going to congratulate you, but I don't think that's your photo.
No.
It's a zoomed in shot of Fender's blue butterfly by Mark Lepin. Well, I don't know. I'm not sure who that is, but thank him.
Yeah.
So Robin Clark then comes at us with Poplar hawk moth, which is a really beautiful moth.
I like them.
And I can't decide between a comma or a peacock butterfly.
I like a peacock. I think they're quite good. Steve Trim has put the hummingbird hawk moth, same as what I went with. But blue morpho when in the tropics. So yeah, hummingbird hawk moth, and he's included a very nice picture of one doing what it does best, feeding off some red valerian.
Then Spencer Seams has come in and he says the easy and basic answer: vampire moth.
I mean, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, it is. There are not many vampiric species in the world, so the few are really cool. I agree with you. It is a cool.
Have you ever seen how they feed?
I have not. No.
You've got a very long proboscis, which they'll try and get into open wounds of things.
Oh, really? Cool.
Yeah, that's quite cool.
That is cool.
And Kelsey Watts has put the Darth Maul one. This one. There's loads of them in the garden. River absolutely loves them.
Do you know what? I don't think I've seen one of these.
Well, that is an umbar moth, and they're one of my favorites as well. And you know what? I completely agree. It is. I've never thought of this, but yes, it is the Darth Maul of moths.
Really cool. That's a really cool photo, Kelsey.
Yeah, they're absolutely fantastic. He's also included another one, or this one, the White Wizard. I like the names of these that he's given them. I'm not sure of the species, but we'll get it ID'd and it'll probably come up behind me.
I like the names you've given them.
Yeah,
both are really fitting.
Maybe you've missed a calling into entomology.
A career in naming moths, but that one's it's extra special, that one, because we'll put the photo up, but you can see why he's called it the White Wizard moth. But obviously Gandalf talks to the moths to bring the eagles to him.
He does,
so
yeah.
Double meaning, very good.
Well, there we go. And this week's question, based on the fact that my garden is now overrun with herring gull chicks, is what garden's in your wildlife at the moment?
What garden is in your wildlife?
We'll try that again. What wildlife is in your garden at the moment? Erin, what have you got in your garden at the moment?
Well, so far, as you'll probably know because I sent you the photos the other day.
Yes, yeah.
A lot of dead things. So there's a dead slow worm and a dead mole. The slow worm, unfortunately, there's been a bit of consumption and a bit of a bit of decomposition take place, but I've buried it in my garden in a marked spot so I can try and get the skull
Exhume it.
eventually. Yeah, and I've done the same with the mole. But the mole was in perfect condition.
Yeah.
And he's about that big. He was huge. And yeah, perfect condition, just outside on the doorstep.
Oh, that
Yeah,
sounds like a
so
victim of a cat.
both. I think
Ah.
both of them were. Other than that, I mean, when you turned up today before we started recording, me and my daughter were outside. We were catching grasshoppers and lots of different coloured versions of those. That was nice. But I'm actually admittedly about to mow the lawn.
Ah.
Because the planet gets the lawn for about 8 months, 9 months of the year, and then we get it for
That's fair enough.
4 months or so. So I'm gonna mow it now. I'm gonna be very careful because I would like to see what I'm hoping to see is slow worms.
Yeah.
I'm hoping to see some amphibians. I'm hoping to see lots of invertebrates, but if I can see any little mice or if I'm really lucky, because I know that they're around here somewhere, some lizards, that would be really. I mean, other than obviously slow worms, that would be really cool.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. I think other than obviously my garden now being full of herring gulls, I would I'd quite happily. Well, I'm quite happy with the occasional visitors we get in the form of the wood pigeons, which are just the most comical things to watch turning up because they will try and land in the most ridiculously small of places. We've not seen many toads this year, even though I've put that
No.
pond in.
There's some toads at work.
But I think it might just be a case of I'm not looking for them, so I'm not noticing them as much. So yeah.
I'll tell you what else. The house martins that nest on our house, their eggs have hatched. They're chucking the eggs out of their nest now, and I can hear them all chittering away in there. Yeah.
That's nice. Right, well, let us know what your wildlife is doing in your garden. What's turning up in your garden, or what have you placed there? It's you can send us pictures as well. That's always welcome, and that'll be going up on our Facebook page. You can also do that in the comments on our YouTube channel as well, and we'll have a look at those as we go.
Yeah.
But yeah. Well, you can get in contact with us in a variety of other ways, and in fact, this week we have got a message that has come through to us on our Facebook Messenger, or like messages that people have sent us on Facebook.
Yeah.
And this one was quite interesting, and we were going to do it last week, but it would have probably run long a bit with Drew's one. So I thought I would put it aside. And this comes from a new, well, I say new listener. It has interacted with us now. Andrew Bunting. So hello, Andrew. Hi, guys. Been a listener for the podcast for the last 2 years or so. Keep up the good content.
You said he was new.
Well, it's first time interacting with us.
I know, I'm just taking the mic.
I was wondering if you could take one of your episodes to opine on something that's been bugging me for a while. I like the word opine.
Yeah,
It's not used enough. Been reading about Quetzalcoatlus and similarly massive, closely related species of massive creatures. And I just can't bring myself to believe something that the size of a giraffe could surely fly. Surely, don't call me Shirley. I must have been a flightless scavenger. Abandoning flight is the only rational way of explaining the size of the beast. I've been told off online for not keeping the faith. This was a flying animal. Due to the supposed flying adaptations like hollow bones, etc. But could these not have had other explanations? Perhaps it was a flying as a young or juvenile stage, and when small enough, would not being that size mean that having lighter bones would be an alteration of coping with being big like elephants deal with by going the other way and getting massive? I can't see a creature this big ever flying. Am I wrong? So I replied to him saying it's a great question and we will tackle it on our upcoming episode. He has then said he enjoyed the short-faced kangaroo episode. So
thank you very much.
He's also added, Also, surely the physics of flight, the density and thinness depending on your perspective of the atmosphere, must have imposed an ironclad upper limit on the size of the animal it can be and get airborne. A giraffe-sized pterosaur must violate these laws, but I am not enough of an engineer to cope with the maths. Anyway, over to you guys. Okay, over to us.
Well, we were Quetzalcoatlus last night, and we flew perfectly fine. So that case closed.
Well, there you go. You proved it. No, Path of Titans aside,
Finally got that game.
yeah, you
After
finally
Gareth's been on at me on this podcast for what, like
best
4
part
months?
best part of a year.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, fair enough.
So this is a really good question, and it makes sense in some ways.
Mm.
How can such a huge animal, a giraffe-sized pterosaur, fly? And annoyingly, this question came in like the day after I was up in Liverpool, where the Liverpool Museum has a Quetzalcoatlus skeleton
Does, yeah.
as you walk into the front area of the museum. And I would have taken more photos of it, or even recorded a video
Done a little
pointing
video,
out some
yeah.
of the adaptations of this fantastic animal. So yes, first off, Quetzalcoatlus was the height of a giraffe standing on the ground. So it's already a terrifying prospect to anything around it. And we have covered Quetzalcoatlus in a previous episode.
Yeah.
And I think we touched on briefly things like Hatzegopteryx and Amborgania.
Very briefly.
Very, very briefly. But we may come back to them in another episode.
Yeah.
Essentially, the way to look at it is the wingspan of a pterosaur like this is built for gliding to an extent, but it's still got to get into the air. For a very long time, it was thought that pterosaurs lived on cliffs, and whenever you look at like early paleo art, they're all living on cliffs and just throwing themselves off the edge. That doesn't work because you need to gain lift. You can't just plummet down and then pull up at the last second. It works to an extent, but not enough to get you airborne.
Yeah, also, you at a certain size, you would probably
plummet too much. Yeah. So how on earth does a pterosaur this size get into the air? Well, if this was a bird, it simply wouldn't be able to do it. The upper size limit for birds goes to Argentavis, a giant, what's known as a teratorn, a huge bird of prey that would have basically acted a bit like a modern day vulture or condor.
Yeah.
Birds have a very different way of doing things. So birds evolved to have big muscular legs to jump into the air.
Yeah.
Birds don't just flap and take off. If you look at a bird slowed down, they jump in the same process, and it can happen all in the same.
And then a release.
Yeah. So they jump, and then the wings take over and give them a good flap up into the air, and they're gone. So all of their weight is sort of centered between those 2 points. You've got the muscles in the leg, and if you've ever eaten chicken, chickens can fly, you'll know that chicken legs are quite muscular. So they need to be able to use them. We've just obviously bred them to be a bit chunkier. Pterosaurs are different. In fact, actually, there's one other adaptation that's worth pointing out on birds is the keel. This bit at the front. If you've ever eaten a chicken and you've eaten around the breastbone, the breast meat is the flight muscles. And they're attached to this anchor point in the center. And that's what gives it the ability to fly.
Yeah.
It's a lot of torsion, a lot of torque goes into that area. But pterosaurs don't have that. They have a slight projection on their sternum, but nothing close to that of birds. Birds have really specced into doing this heavily. The best analogy for a pterosaur is actually bats.
Yeah.
Bats are by far the best analogy because they launch in the same way and they also fly in the same way. So pterosaurs would have launched in what's called a quad launch stance. And they know this now because they've found pterosaur trackways. There's some fantastic ones in southern France and some in Brazil. There's some in Australia. I think there's even some in the UK where you basically have what would have been muddy flat areas and these pterosaurs taking off and the footprints are there. And it shows that the pterosaurs would have launched using all 4, but more so using their front arms and pushing. Now, they've looked at the muscle attachments on the arms or the wing bones of something like a Quetzalcoatlus. And through computer modeling, they've been able to work out that the musculature would have been able to throw it at least 8 foot up. So it's a good distance up
Yeah,
to then get a good wing beat in and start taking off. Now, obviously, if you get a bit of a run up as well, that gives you a bit more oomph to get into the air.
Yep.
So yes, we're now looking at an animal that can obviously get up into the air. But to your further points about how on earth could this animal fly, even if it had hollow bones, they do have hollow bones, similar to birds, because they've basically evolved flight. But the other big part of a pterosaur is its skull, especially these ones. Massive skulls,
Yeah.
over 2.5, 3 meters long. They are huge skulls. But the one thing you'll notice when you look at any large Asdarchid pterosaur skull, it's full of holes. I mean, just looking at a dinosaur skull, this is a big weight-saving area here. The eyeball obviously sits here on a dinosaur,
Yep.
but this is all full of sinus material, but it's not solid bone. It's weight-saving. It allows for all of that stuff to happen there. It's a lot of weight taken off. And in Asdarchids like Quetzalcoatlus, there is a huge area right in front of where the eye is. The skull is much less heavy and much less dense than it would be on something like a mammal. And so to the point of saying, would they not have basically spent their entire time wandering around on the ground in later life? Even though this is an animal that is estimated to weigh as much as a grizzly bear, that's about 250 kilos. That's 250 kilos that the sort of same computer modeling that shows that they could get into the air shows that they could stay there as well. And then obviously gliding is a big part as well. This is an animal about the same size as a small plane, like a single seat plane sort of thing. So once you're up in the air, staying there is actually quite easy. It's a lot easier to stay in the air as an aerodynamic shape than it is to do anything else. So once you're up there, it's not so bad. It's the getting up off the ground.
Yeah, it's the launch problem, isn't it?
Well,
and they have their method for it.
And this is why I haven't revealed the final thing yet. So on their arm bones, they have a massive projection that sticks out.
Yes.
And it's a massive anchor point for those arm muscles to help pull those arms to get them off into the air. And once they're up, and they can basically soar around, and would have had probably fairly good vision and probably fairly good sense of smell to be able to pick out whatever they're looking for. And in the case of things like Hatzegopteryx, they basically only needed to land on some of these smaller islands. And this is where I can buy the thought of them giving up flight to an extent, because these were giant pterosaurs that could land on islands full of dwarf dinosaurs and be the biggest thing there and not have to worry. Even Quetzalcoatlus was an animal that was wandering around at the same time as T-Rex. It itself could look a T-Rex in the eye.
Yeah.
And it would probably have been a bit of a challenge for a T-Rex to front up against. Obviously, a Quetzalcoatlus has nowhere near got the sort of bulk to it to be able to actually attack a T-Rex.
No, but
But it could probably scare it.
Yeah, probably has the threat displayed down.
And there's not many things bigger than a T-Rex at this point. So you only have to scare everything else off at a carcass, and you can turn up and basically take your pick.
Just to jump off what you said about these two bony protrusions, this isn't an apples to apples comparison, but the way I thought about when we were talking about this the other day, the way I thought about to try and help Andrew understand and others understand is it's not a catapult. I think the actual correct term is a trebuchet. So if you imagine that the arms are acting both as the anchor to the floor and as the tight rope that's about to fling the
well, that was meant to happen.
we'll sort that next time. Yeah, if you imagine them as both the frame of the trebuchet and the rope that's going to fling this thing,
I suppose
they're kind of catapulting their weight off of this protrusion as they go. It's not an apples to apples comparison, but it might help.
So in essence, no, I don't agree. I don't think they walked around their entire life as adults. Once they're in the air, they're pretty much good.
Mm.
You know, it's that just getting off the ground, which did take a while for paleontologists to really sort of hone in on it. Like I say, you get those old views of pterosaurs of jumping off cliffs and hanging upside down from trees like bats and all these sort of weird ways of looking at it. But no, they are an animal that has evolved this ability. There is everything to say that, Hatzegopteryx may, if it had been given time, have evolved to basically just be completely flightless if it
Yeah.
didn't need to. And I would say that there's probably a chance out there that there is a fossil of something like that that's done that. But no, I very much go with the idea that these are flying animals. They've adapted for flight, and everything about them screams it. It's just they're not a very what I would say classic version of what we look at when we think of flying animals. It
Yeah.
doesn't look like much, and it does scream, what the heck is that, and how the heck does it get off the ground?
Yeah,
So I
think
can
it's
understand
just,
why.
it's
Yeah.
one of those things that it's going to be difficult for humans to wrap our collective brains around how that
Short of
works,
seeing
but
it actually flying, yeah, I think
Mm.
it's one of those things. I get it, but yeah. So yeah. Anyway, if you want to send us in messages, you can do so on our Facebook page. But I
Yeah.
believe we've also got, just to round out this episode when it comes to people sending us things, I think we've also got an email as well.
We do, yeah. And our email actually comes from one of our loyal Patreon supporters. It comes from Jen Greenhall. And her email is as follows. She says, "Hello, lovelies. I think I may have missed the question, but I was wondering if any cupboard dweller had ever done one of those genetic testing things. I'm really tempted. I know deep down it's a silly waste of money, but there is one that apparently, in inverted commas,
Mhm.
quotation marks, tells you about how much Neanderthal or Denisovan DNA you have, or something like that. I am so tempted. Have you? Would you?
I haven't,
I haven't.
but I would. The thing that
Yeah.
puts me off is the price for them.
The price tag is pretty steep. Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of them are like a couple of £100 to basically get something that, I don't know. The cynic in me is like, yeah, sure, yeah, 10% that, yeah, 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 and they just sort of check down a list
Yeah.
and just throw it out randomly. But also the weird conspiracy person in my mind is like, I'm giving away my DNA.
Yes.
Ooh.
The money is a thing for me, and I would guess that if you were going to go down the route of one that could actually tell you how much Neanderthal or Denisovan DNA you have, it would be pretty expensive.
Yeah.
I'm thinking like there's a lot of kind of ancestry tests for dogs too to tell you exactly what makeup
Oh
is in your dog.
God, that would be a muddle.
Only one of them tells you how much DNA, grey wolf DNA is in them. I think it's called Embark. That's the only one that will tell you, and that one is a lot more expensive than the others. So I
Well,
would
I'm not
assume
surprised.
I'd assume that the case is the same for this because it would have to delve a little bit deeper. I'm really tempted because I know more about my dad's side of the family than my mum's, unfortunately. But I would love to know more about both sides of the family because I know that we go back on my dad's side. We go back to Wales and Scotland, and on mum's side, like our great grandpa was our great granddad was from it was French Canadian, and I know bits and pieces about individuals, but that's it. I'd love to know more about both sides of the family. So it is tempting, but money is a hurdle, and I'm not a conspiracy theorist, but actually I do worry about this one.
Yeah, it's a weird one, isn't it?
DNA to someone. Are we going to have some sort of
Don't-
sixth day thing going on?
Don't be swayed by what we're saying.
Yeah,
Like I say, I think if I was offered the ability to do it, I would probably do it.
There won't be two Arnold Schwarzeneggers running around trying to take each other's lives.
Oh my God, they'll clone us and they'll make like a cloned version of the cupboard.
Have you seen that film? It all starts with him trying to clone his dead dog.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Can you imagine we'd be in competition with our own, and then there'd be some sort of AI. Oh goodness, it'll be yeah.
No, I don't think Drew's also done it either. So
No, I
yeah.
don't think so. He's never said anything about it.
No. But yeah, I think that'd be an interesting one. If you do get it, well, let us know, and let us know how much of a Neanderthal you've got in you.
Yeah, yeah. I'd
That'd
be
be
interested
interesting
to
to know.
find out this kind of stuff.
Because we've not covered Neanderthal,
No.
which would be an interesting one to look at
We
in the
did
future.
Deinocheirus. I did Deinocheirus.
Yeah. So yeah, that is one of the
What's-
many ways that you can get in contact with us. You can do that through our email address, which is thenathistorykcupboard@gmail.com.
Yes.
Our Facebook page, which is well, basically our normal Facebook page. But you can also get in contact with us in another way, as Jen Babs has done previously, which is by becoming a Patreon. And Erin is going to tell us all about them now.
That's right, Gareth. Every week, we like to give a little love back by shouting out the names of our wonderful Patreon supporters. These are the cupboard dwellers who are kind enough to support us through a monetary contribution, for which we are grateful beyond words. And those people are, of course, Fogtober, Jen Greenhall, Connie P, Chelsea McKee, Nick Tanick, and Justin Knife. Guys, your financial contributions are actively helping us here in the Natural History Cupboard in a myriad of ways, including developing this studio further, forgetting any potentially broken lights.
We'll figure that out.
Yeah, I'll fix that out at the end. Planning excursions, like a couple of weeks ago, we went to the Fossil Festival. Considering technical upgrades, hopefully you have realised that the
Quality's a lot
quality
better.
of the video is better this week, thanks to my mum for that. And also, of course, actually making this leap from solely audio podcast to a YouTube channel with a growing audience.
Yeah.
So we really cannot thank you enough. Now, we appreciate all of our cupboard dwellers and the support you offer us through listening, liking, sharing, and subscribing.
You can describe us
You
as
can
well.
describe us too. Yeah. But if you feel we've earned it and you're considering joining our Patreon, there are two options through which you can do so: the Nature Nerds and the Animal Ambassadors, and more on those at a later date. And once again, just thank you so much for your support. Even if you just comment "Hi guys," we will do our best to respond back to you.
Yeah. Like Erin said, a massive thank you to all of our Patreons. And you can get in contact with us in a variety of other ways, because money isn't everything. You can follow us on all the usual social media channels that we use: Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, obviously. You can find us on there, and occasionally on TikTok. That seems to be hit and miss, weird.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
know. I put videos out, and sometimes it does well, sometimes it doesn't. But yeah, like us, subscribe, poke, throw a virtual sheep. I don't know. Do all those usual things that you can do on whatever thing, on whatever platform you're listening or liking or watching us on, because it all helps massively and helps the channel grow and makes us do better.
Slap us with a Deinocheirus.
Probably don't do that. Yeah, that would hurt. But that pretty much brings us to the end of this week's episode. So big thank you, Aaron.
Yeah, been wonderful. Thank you.
Big thank you.
I didn't know that
No,
when we were talking about Asian dinosaurs last, I didn't know that Deinocheirus was Asian until you used that as your answer in the into that question.
Oh yeah.
So I learned something a few weeks ago, and it's
that's-
been nice to expand upon it today.
And that's the importance of things. You learn something. You know?
Knowing is half the battle.
Exactly.
Joe.
And a big thank you to you at home for listening. And we'll see you next time here in the Natural History Cupboard. Bye.
Bye.
One does not simply have giant claws. One has horrible hands as well.